What's the deal with airline peanuts? Who gives a shit about airline peanuts flying through the sky? We're talking about stand-up comedy today. Cue the music. Welcome, everyone, to the Entertainment Buffet podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Prosek. Very honored to welcome an amazing guest, a improviser, a stand-up comedian, a sketch performer, Joel Boyd, everybody.
Hey, what up, y'all? Listen to that truck in the background.
Disclaimer to all you folks out there that you may be hearing some truck noises and some cars honking and whatnot. That's because we're filming in downtown Chicago.
I live in the hood. No, I'm just playing.
So, we are at Joel Boyd's place. You may recognize him on the internet from his sketch group, Wisconsin Nuts. He's performing all over downtown Chicago, both improv and stand-up at Second City with his improv group 99 Problems.
Yes.
As well as you're finishing up a show at the time we're recording this at Second City called Date Me.
Yeah, hashtag Date Me. Yep.
And of course, we actually, when Entertainment Buffet did our first ever live show back in January, Joel was the headliner.
Yeah, that was a good show. That was great. Yeah, you guys brought the heat.
That it's I just amazing looking back whenever I watch the recordings how, sometimes some of the performers, there'd be hilarious moments and then just be little lulls, but man, you went 20 minutes solid of just, you had the crowd the whole time, man.
Thanks, bro. Thanks for having me. Yeah, that was a fun crowd.
Joel, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? As I mentioned, you kind of are jack of all trades in the comedy world. But
sure, yeah. I don't really know. I guess people say that about me a lot. I think my favorite thing is stand-up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I do feel like I get bored easily. That's one of my things. So I just have to do other things. I might start playing cello soon. I don't know.
You kind of get in different moods where you're like, you know what? I feel like doing stand-up
this is
more.
Too easy. I've even been at Second City for a little bit, and I'm not even on any of the main stages or kind of people's a lot of dreams when they go to Second City is to end up going down that road. But I'm already okay, I've been doing this for a while. I want to try other things. So I'm doing a play this year. I'm doing my first dramatic play on stage and doing some thespianism. And yeah, I'm just trying to just spread my wings a little bit. And yeah, but I think stand-up is the thing I will never stop doing. I will always try to.
It's always going to.
I'm doing it.
It's always going to be a part of whatever you're doing. Mm-hmm. Whether it's you decide to get more into theater work or sketch work, you're always going to be doing stand up on the side. I can understand that because I remember the first time I started stand up. It wasn't that long ago in late 2012, and once I did it one or two times, I'm like, you know what? I know I may never get a job in this. I may never get paid for it or, headline, anything like that. But whether it's just open mics or whatever, in my free time as a hobby, I'm always going to have to do stand-up. Mm-hmm. Because
it's a quality that I think one of my old coworkers called me on this once. And he said it in a way that I was like, yeah, that's it. He was like, man, you do stand-up, huh? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, man, I can't imagine doing that. Like those kind of people who do that. I'm just like, yeah, man, I don't know. If you love it, you'll do it. And he was like, yeah, man. To me, it feels like people who do stand-up, you have to do that shit, don't you?
Like you're addicted to it.
Yeah, he said it like that. And I was just like, what do you mean? He was like, I don't know. I just fuck all you guys that do that shit. That's just a thing you have to do.
That's a good way to put it.
And he made it sound like I was sick. Oh, shit. We got to get you some help, man.
Yeah.
You're always out there.
You're just twitching. Got to get on stage.
I need a mic, man. Give me a mic. Stage. That's true, though.
But Yeah, no. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking a lot about this episode. Before we really get into it, I just want to throw out all the plugs we got to do, which is please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. When you leave that review, that really helps more people who aren't listening to the podcast find it. So that I would really appreciate if you could do that for me and Kelly on the podcast. I try to make this available anywhere I can. It's now on Google Play, it's on Stitcher, it's on Podbean, Blueberry, whatever the fuck Blueberry is.
I don't know. Sounds good, though. I gotta get on there.
And as always, please check out entertainmentbuffet.com for any of our video content. We just started a new video podcast. My friends Charlie and his wife Bethany Duber, they had a audio podcast called Movie Trailer Trash that you could subscribe to on iTunes, and they're now jumping to Entertainment Buffet to do it in a video form. And just this last week or two, they looked at the Assassin's Creed trailer. So look at them talking about that, as well as all of our other content coming to you on the Entertainment Buffet channel. What we like to do here on the podcast, Joel, is one of our first segments is LOL of the Week. This could be a story, a video, picture, meme, GIF, whatever the fuck, just something that in the last week or two just really cracked you up. I'll go ahead and start. And one, it was just a GIF. I don't know if you ever watch House with Hugh Laurie.
Oh, no, I never seen.
Yeah, but he's just a sassy motherfucker.
Yeah.
And he's always known, sort of like Sherlock Holmes, for he never can judge real human feelings. And he basically is talking to his boss in the GIF. He says, "Do I get paid more if I act like I care?" And I wish I could say that to my boss at my day job at the bank. Just be like, "Will you pay me more if I act like I care for everyone?" Because I really don't give a shit.
Oh, that's so true, man.
Like
about every job, really.
Yeah, really. Any day job that it's not something that you're passionate about. It's kind of like, are you doing this for the paycheck? Like, yes, I am. Can we be honest? I am. I need to pay rent. Me and my wife need to eat.
Some of the best acting you'll ever see isn't on stage. It's when your boss enters the room.
Exactly.
That's the best acting. You ever be at your job?
Yeah.
Even at especially when the dude who owns the place. Like, you ever have that day when that guy walks in, or woman, or whoever it is? It's so funny because I think even like those people don't even know that they're living in an alternate reality. Like, wherever room they enter, no, people don't act like that. It's just because you're here now.
I know exactly.
They don't know what real conversation is.
Because I worked at Lou Malnati's, and Mark Malnati would come by the restaurant sometimes, the son of the actual Lou Malnati. And, he'd be all smiling, how's everyone doing? Yeah. And we're all like, great.
It's like when the king comes in and you're all taking a shit, though. Oh, shit, no, pull your pants up. Hey, go ahead.
Yeah. But the moment he leaves, we're all like, fuck that guy,
fuck that dude.
But
I'll eat his pizza though. But fuck him.
Yeah, exactly. The pizza's good, but he does not pay people enough to deal with the shit they have to deal with. So that's my LOL of the week. Is just a quick GIF. But Joel, do you have any?
Sure, man. I figured I'd tell a story. I'll tell a story.
All right, story time.
Let's see. Okay, so let me preface this with saying that I've been sort of laying off weed a little bit. I'm a very heavy stoner, people, as most of you guys are by now. I'm sure millennials out there.
We're just sitting in a big bag
hitting
of weed.
It pretty hard. We're sitting on a giant. This couch is engraved with weed. It's really half of it is. No, I'm just playing. So yeah, I've been trying to cut back, right? And I was hanging out with one of my homies from one of my old day jobs a few weeks ago, and I haven't smoked in like maybe a few weeks, maybe almost a month. I've been doing pretty good. I'm just trying to cut back or whatever. Right?
Pretty good.
That's pretty good for me. But I haven't seen my homie in a while, so we hit him up, and this was when like the Blackhawks were playing and everything. So we were like at the bar, and mind you, I'm not a heavy drinker either. So I was like hitting that sort of hard too. Not even hard, but like hard for me. Like I think I had maybe like 2 beers, maybe 2 or 3 beers. And this is all funny too because I didn't pay for anything. Like I'm broke as hell, right? I'm a full-time comedian now, so I'm like broke as hell all the time. And my homie was like, oh, man, I got you. I ain't seen you in a while, so I'm going to buy you some drinks. So, yeah, he bought me a few beers. And he was like, hey, while we're out, man, Blackhawks are playing. You gotta do some shots, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, fuck, all right. So we, did. I don't know what we did.
If you insist.
I was like, all right, man, he's paying. So I was like, yeah, cool. And then we come to my house. He was like, hey, man, I know you've been quitting weed, but bought some weed. And I was like, oh, shit. All right. So, and then we ended up smoking a little bit, and we were, watching some Netflix at my house. And I'm sitting in that chair right there. And I'll tell you, this is why that cushion is no longer there. Is I just sort of at a certain point, I'm high as hell, right? And I realize, oh man, I need just some fresh air and some water. So I said to everybody, I was like, hey, you guys, I need some water. So could you just go grab me something? And I couldn't get out the chair. And I was like, oh yeah. Oh shit, I hope Joel's okay. And then as soon as not even they come back to get the water, right? This is what they said. Apparently, I looked like I was possessed. My face was green, and apparently my eyes were rolled back into my head like this. And everybody's like, Joel, and I couldn't even hear them. I don't even remember this happening. I come to, I guess I was going to sleep. What I thought I was doing was taking a nap. And I fucking woke up puking. I just woke.
Oh.
Has that ever happened to you?
I mean, I've been blacked out to where I don't remember puking as much, but in and out.
Oh man, I just remember I thought I was going to sleep, and I was just like, oh, this is fine. I'll just pass out. I'll pass out. This is fine. And then I just woke up. I couldn't aim it. So I was just woke up, come to fucking yakking everywhere. And I was it was it was the most embarrassing shit ever. I was it was all my clothes. It was all the guys were over. I just looked like a bitch. And then I just took myself to the shower and in the shower I had to wash my clothes. I took a shower with my clothes on. It was so embarrassing. Anyway, thanks Jared for paying for everything.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, this podcast we're going to be talking all about stand-up comedy. Obviously, Joel has more experience than I do. He's been doing it full time. He's been headlining shows. I mean, you've done an hour on stage a few times, correct?
A couple of times, yeah. Really twice, but yeah.
But still, I mean, I've done 12 minutes the most.
The most in a row?
12 minutes. I've done that a few times. I've wanted to do more, but it was just more about getting at the right venue, the right kind of show to be allowed that amount of time. Mm-hmm. But so yeah, I gotta ask, what was the first bit that you're like, you know what, this isn't just a funny story or an observation. This is a bit.
It's a real bit. Man, I started when I was so young, so a lot of early stuff. I think when I decided to really do it, I was 14.
Shit.
Yeah. So I started at my. I cheated kind of my first time. I started at my family reunion in what was this? I think it was not Jacksonville, Florida. I think it was North Carolina that year. So yeah, a lot of my early stuff was me making fun of my childhood and I had a bad temper when I was a kid, so I'd make fun of those old stories. But I think the first bit that I wrote where I was just man, that's a good actual joke was based on me. My mom would make us read the Bible and shit when we were kids. So the joke went something oh man, growing up, my childhood was real confusing, because whenever me and my sisters and brother, we were whenever we were bad around the house, my mom would punish us by making us read the Bible, But there are times we were good, and she would reward us by making us read the Bible. So
I remember that you did that at the live show.
Yeah, and that joke is so true. It hits home to so many people because it's just and I haven't. There's some bits that are from that long ago that I've worked on and filed down, and I still use them. Some of them. First,
or second bit that it's almost like a go-to. Say, the crowd just really isn't feeling it, and you're like, man, I gotta dip away from this new stuff and just put in something that works. Mm-hmm. You always have that one that you're like, all right, I can go to. It's pretty reliable. You can get a quick laugh.
Old Faithful.
Old Faithful. It's funny you mentioned that it's a religious joke, because I think that was my first one that I was proud of. It was about Jesus, and I didn't grow up in that religious of a home. I was Lutheran, whatever the fuck that is. And,
that's about right. Lutherans, they're half-ass Christians.
Yeah, exactly. They're ones that are more chill. They're like we got to get home and watch the football game.
Right.
So, I was talking about Jesus, and I'm like, if you really think about it, he was the world's first magician because he walked on water. He turned water into wine, and I'm like, maybe the cross was just a magic trick that went horribly wrong. Like his assistant didn't bring the prop nails, and like, I don't know why, but like, I just thought that was humorous because I think at the time, like, Chris Angel was kind of like more popular when I was trying to write some of these bits, and I'm like, yeah, he's like walking on water, they changed stuff, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is the first magician. And like, it never like killed, but I just thought that was like one of my first that I was like, man, that seems like crafted, and like, I actually, thought of something that maybe I hadn't heard someone else quite word like that before. Like we've all kind of heard like the same type of bits, like you'll hear comedians talk about, oh, their wife is so bitchy, and they get in arguments or
there's no new bits.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no new jokes or ideas. There's just it's your point of view,
Exactly.
Like I think a lot of people, especially when they first start stand up, they're always just like, what's my voice? Or like, what's my angle? Like, what's my point of view? And it's really just like, there's nothing new under the sun. It's like whatever your style is, you just keep getting on stage and like you find it by just talking about how you feel or what you think. That's really all it is.
And the weirdest thing I think about stand-up is, like we both went to Columbia College in Chicago. I think you studied more like comedy studies when it comes to like maybe sketch writing and then like improv and such. And I studied more like film and like television and film writing. But like there is really no like school for stand-up. Like it's one of those things you kind of just got to learn yourself.
Yeah.
Through trying it.
Yeah.
Because I've had friends that, they've said, like, man, I think I want to try that. I was like, then do it.
Yeah.
That was how I started. Like, I just, Columbia was doing an open mic, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to fucking go. And, I put together 5 minutes. And, if I bomb, then, hey, it was my first time.
Yeah, bro. That's how you got to do it. I mean, there's classes. Like, I think I took a teen stand-up class at Second City when I was, like, maybe 16 or 17. I was just learning. And, kind of when you read a book or, about this kind of stuff or take a class, it just teaches you, like, a concept or one way to do this. There is no one way or official way to make comedy. There isn't.
Yeah.
Like I love talking to different comics and like, how do you write, bro? Like, how do you make ideas? Like, there's people do it in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Even to write a joke or to stand, to perform their material. There's really no way. It's just like trying,
Exactly.
It's that Yoda quote. It's like there's no do or whatever, try, whatever.
Yeah.
I ain't that big of a Star Wars fan anyway. I just know that quote was dope.
When you were kind of starting out, like, then how did you write them? Did you more so like write every single word out, or did you just kind of come up with the idea that you thought was funny and you practiced?
When I first started, you saying?
I mean, or you can even just talk about now. Even like, what is your style of writing?
It's changed a lot. It still changes. I haven't found my. I guess there is no one way I do it. But yeah, you're right. When I did first start out, I started out in theater. I did a lot of plays growing up, and when I first started writing my jokes, I would literally write them out word for word, and that would just help because I was used to memorizing scripts, and you would just kind of like memorize the words on the page. And then after that, I started realizing I was such an improv heavy performer that I would go off script anyway. So I would just try to get used to the idea of like getting a little looser when I write my jokes. So like now it's evolved to where I'll kind of like it's a combination of things. Like if I'm out in the world and I'm like having a conversation with somebody and I'll say something like, oh man, that's a bit. Like I said something to somebody in person, I'm like, oh, I gotta write that down. So I'll just like record a voice note in my phone, and because that's better too. If you think of a bit, like if you're more of a writing person and you like writing the words down, it's also really, really helpful to like record it the way you thought it or the way you felt when you said it. Because then sometimes if you read back what you wrote like a few weeks ago, you don't know exactly what you meant by the words. So if you like hear your voice and like what you were talking about and how you said it, that helps a lot. So I'll do that. And then there's days where if I'm really, really trying to come up with a new 5 or like just some new time, I'll write out like a topic or like a theme, and then I'll make 10 one-liners on that theme or topic. Because for me, it really helps like just write a bunch of one-liners as like different strands of thought that the jokes could go, and then I'll like star my favorite ones. So like all the good ones, and then I'll just like get in the mirror because I'm such an improv heavy performer, I feel like. So I'll just like start acting like I'm already on stage while I'm in the mirror, and just start riffing off of the one-liners I wrote, and then it usually turns into a longer bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, when I started out, I think it was like you said, I tried to write out word for word everything. And what I would then do was, like, once I kind of timed out around, because the standard for open mics in Chicago is like 4 or 5 minutes. So I would...
3 or 4.
Yeah, 3 or 4. I think lately it's kind of dipped lower because there's so many more people trying it that it's, they want to squeeze more people in.
Right.
But like I was like, I'd always learned, like you got to get that solid 5. So I was kind of playing with stuff, and what I would do is like I actually bought a real microphone and a microphone stand to even practice just walking up and taking the mic off and just walking around with the microphone, with a cord, trying to learn to not...
To be comfortable.
Yeah, and to not trip over it, to be aware of how my hands are moving. And I wouldn't record myself practicing that, but I would just, like you said, I would try saying it out loud, and then I would hear it, and then that would kind of spark me to, like, that just doesn't flow. Like, that feels weird. Like, it looked good on paper, but when I'm saying it, it feels clunky.
If you really have a passion for doing this, like, you'll just keep doing it and you'll get better, because there is no way to take a class on this shit. Like, it's kind of a lifestyle. Like, I remember when we were writing the show we just closed for Wisconsin Nuts, we had a live run, and when we wrote it in like a month because we wanted it to be really fresh and like really of the times and like really about what's going on right now, and we procrastinated. But when we were writing the show, it was like certain sketches we wrote, we would just like hear the words when we were doing table reads or whatever out loud, and we would just be like, that joke has to be shorter, or we got to move this concept down here, or like, it's talking about comedy writing and like concepts. It's a science when you really like look at like comedic timing and like the way beats. We were talking about editing films earlier and just like shit like that. Like, you can't learn that. You can't teach a kid comedic timing. Or you just either know it, or you know what I mean, or you can work on it.
It feels natural, or it doesn't.
Yeah.
I've said this, and I don't know if I was officially said it on the podcast, but I do think when it comes to like film, television, and everything, that I think comedy is the hardest genre. And the reason I say that is because I've used the example, like, okay, we'll just use your bit about, my mom used to reward us by reading the Bible and punish us by reading the Bible. You could tell that in front of 10 people, and you could get either 2 people laughing, or you could get a crowd that none of them are religious at all, and it gets like no laughs. But it's so varied. But like if you take something, dramatic or scary, you could bring it in front of the same 10 people and most likely get a similar reaction. But comedy, some people like fart jokes, some people like political humor, some people like just witty banter back and forth. Like, it's so varied that I think it's the hardest thing out there.
That's so true. But I do feel like, I was talking to a few of my friends about this the other day, and like, I feel like comedy is also just about empathy, and I feel like people kind of forget that, or are starting to forget that, I feel like, in modern day comedy. Because people are so like PC now and get offended at every little thing. God. And it's like, man, most comics are just talking about their lives or like their opinions, and it's like we forget to just like take a fucking day off from being offended at everything and just listen.
Enjoy it.
Just listen. It's a joke, or it's a story, or this guy is just, or they're just spilling out how they feel. And it's just like, it's crazy to think that we're kind of entering this new time where like even just what should be a joke at some times, and some jokes obviously do have like commentary behind them, whether you do mean what you say, even though it's a joke. But like, people are so like, oh man, that, not even like, this isn't funny. I think Sarah Silverman had a really, really good observation about this in one of her interviews. I forgot what it was on, but she was talking about how like instead of nowadays comedy audiences, like, I think back in the day she was saying it used to be, oh man, this isn't funny to me. Now people are thinking like, oh, this isn't funny to me, so it shouldn't be funny to anyone. You know what I mean? Like, they get so offended at one little thing. Like, to me, I don't know. I personally, like, one of my things is I don't like it when, like, I feel like there's a black joke for the sake of a black joke. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, that annoys me. Like, and in that example, like, you know, everybody has their thing that offends them, right? And to me, I just, like, you know, me personally, I'm like, okay, if it's going to be a black joke, like, make it say something. One. Yeah. Or at least a good one, or something that's, you know, clever or something, or just that you're saying something with it, not just, like, for the sake of that.
And I won't just say this about, like, Chicago open mic comedy, because I've really done only open mics in either Chicago or just in the suburbs of Chicago. I haven't done it in L.A. or New York or any other state for that matter. But one thing I started noticing at certain mics, it kind of depending on the comedians, is they wouldn't go there to enjoy other people's humor. Like, I went because, like, I wanted to make myself better, but I also wanted to see, you know, hey, one of these guys up here could be the next huge thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if you know Danny Callis. Yeah, so, like, right when I first started, it was, like, maybe, like, my 4th or 5th time, I was just at an open mic. I think it was at Merkel's. I don't know if they still do it anymore. And Danny Callis went up there, and I don't think he was a name yet or a headliner, but he destroyed his entire 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Just destroyed it. I remember I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing, and I think he could go somewhere. Yeah. And sure enough, like, years later when I got an internship at the Comedy Bar, he was a headliner. You know, and I was like, damn, I remember him. I remember his delivery, but I went there because I went to enjoy it. Now, some stand-up comedians go there, and because they write themselves comedy, they kind of go in with the mindset like with their arms crossed, like, you know, make me laugh. Yeah. Like, see if you can make me laugh as much as, you know, as I am.
That funny. They're worthy of something.
Exactly. Like, kind of the attitude, like, can you really be funny? Mm-hmm. Like, no, you're not the only funny one in the room. Yeah.
And, I mean, and, you know, and open mics are definitely just like, there's nothing in the world like an open mic. I don't know if you've ever been to one, people out there, but it is a circle of social hierarchy that will not exist and shouldn't exist anywhere else. It's horrible. But you gotta go. If you're a comic, you gotta go. It's like you gotta. It's like literally the pit fire of hell that you have to just fucking find whatever's inside of you and climb out that shit.
It's the true testament, like, because like you said, like, if stand up or whatever art form is something that you're really passionate about, you'll go through the shit. Mm-hmm. And that's what open mics are. It's almost like testing, like, can you deal with shitty ass crowds?
You got to. And, you know, who deserves to do arenas if you can't do this shitty bar? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
no, that makes exactly.
Like, you know, if you ever want to do this and you don't do mics, fuck you.
Yeah. Like, you think you're just above that? Like,
why do you think you're ever... Hannibal Buress still goes to mics. Louis C.K. will still pop up at a mic. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, as far as working out material and, you know, just getting in front of people. And also the thing about mics is, like, nobody wants to be there. Nobody's excited about being there. Like, so you got to realize that. Like, every comic in that room, they're not even listening to you unless they already went. And then usually they're going after that. But, like, you know, if there's anybody actually in that room, they're working on their set. They're looking at their notebook. They're, you know, in their head trying to think of the 5 things they're going to say as soon as they get up there that nobody will listen to them by then. So,
like you said, you have to.
It's a rite of passage.
You don't want to, but that's just how it works.
Goes, man.
Now, do you remember, like, some of these shows where you perform, you know, 20, 30, you know, almost an hour long, just maybe either a best story or the worst story, like maybe crowds, or I guess just, you know, I'm curious about some of these times where you've gone on for that long. Because, like you said, you're so used to these open mics where you only get 5 minutes, but what about when you get that opportunity to go 15, 20, or longer? Right. Maybe some of your first experiences with that.
Yeah, man. I think the longest I'd ever done before I did my first hour, like in between those, was maybe 30, 25 to 30. And then I booked this hour special. I just wanted to film myself and just kind of watch and see how I did, and just invited a bunch of people in my hometown, Milwaukee. So I did that show, and man, it was an unforgettable experience, because you find out who you are the more you get on stage, you know what I mean? And the longer you can get on stage. So like, you know, if you get a tight 5, you're good. Like, you figured out whatever shtick works with you in 5. But if you start doing 10s, 15, 20s, you just have to talk about more stuff. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You have to like find, you know, in your 5-minute set, maybe, you know, talking about relationships and girlfriends and like dating is your thing. And that's very funny. And then if you get 15 or 20 minutes, what else do you have to say? You know what I mean? Like, your dating 5 is awesome. But now you got to talk about your family. Now you got to kind of tell, you know, or maybe you're not even that kind of comic. Maybe you're going to try some one-liners in there. Maybe you're going to have some stories and shit. So for me, my first hour was like my entire life up until that point. I got to like explore those stories and explore that past part of my life, and just talking about a lot of stuff that had been going on with me. And I just remember there was several times where a joke or a story or whatever didn't go like you wrote it, or didn't go like you planned. And you just have to fucking improvise. You really just do. And you just learn what that relationship is with the audience and with yourself as a performer. Because like the first time I did that hour, there were several times when I look back on the tapes, I was like, damn, I didn't even write that. Oh, I didn't even write that either. Like, that's just riffing. Like, I just made that up. So like, that first time was like amazing. And it helped me with even the 5-minute sets you do after you do a long set. You just crisper now. You just learned all that shit that you just, you know, it's like you jumping in a pool, the deep end, and you just gotta fucking swim. If you up there, you told them you're gonna do an hour, fuck it, you gotta swim now.
Yeah, explore all these things, because, for example, when you're doing 5 minutes, you really only get time to do maybe like 4 or 5 bits if they're all like 30 seconds to a minute or so. Mm-hmm. But now you can't just do, you know, 61-minute bits. You need to expand to where, like you said, maybe you have 5, 6, 7 minutes on religion when you were growing up, or your parents, or, you know, your siblings, or whatever. Like, you need to start expanding and not just make it, you know, set up, punchline. You know, you need to kind of mold it into more of it's
a piece at that point. It's got to be, you know, I think, I forgot what comedian I was listening to at this point, but somebody was saying, like, you know, if you're a one-liner comedian, there are people that are just so good at that style. It just doesn't, the audience doesn't really love it past about 20 minutes. You know, I think doing stand-up is also like a muscle. It's like a muscle you work. You know what I mean?
It could be flipped on its head. I don't know if you've ever been to, and I try not to be too judgmental of other comedians, because we're all putting ourselves out there.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, I go to this one open mic in Aurora. It's at a place called the Comedy Shrine. Great little comedy club. Mm-hmm. And this guy I see there every time I'm there. And I think he just doesn't understand. Like, not everyone exactly writes their bits, but he just kind of has the... You could tell he's the funny guy in his group, but that doesn't necessarily mean he should do stand-up. Like, he'll just walk up and be like... Yeah, man, I was smoking weed with my friends, and you ever get really high? And I'm like, then what?
Right.
Like, okay, you set up the bit, you ever get really high, then you do some stupid shit, or like you were saying earlier, you puked all over yourself in the cushion. Like, you can't just...
That's a copyrighted joke, y'all. I can't take that shit.
But it needs to go somewhere, and it needs to, whether it's... like you said, actually writing it or just trying it out yourself, it can't just be just talking and saying stuff that, you know, maybe got some laughs at work. But it's something
that's why I feel like people do comedy for different reasons, too. You got to realize that shit. Like, I think I definitely learned in comedy studies, though, especially with stand-up. It's like, whenever I watch a piece or somebody perform, it's like, what is your point of view, though? You know what I mean? Like, I think after you get off stage, the audience should be like, wow, like, I know that person, or I've at least felt that type of point of view. You know what I mean? Like, you want to be able to, like, when somebody gets off stage, you should know how they feel about life or the world or, you know, their relationship with themselves. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, like, and some people who, you know, not necessarily everybody does comedy for that reason, but I think, especially as an audience member, you want to get to know that person. Like, I think the first few years I even did stand-up in Chicago, some of my best friends would just, like, tell me, they'd be like, man, that was a great set, but I still feel like I don't know you. Like, they'll, like, even no matter how good I did, they'll just be like, man, yeah, that was great, your impressions or whatever the fuck. I was just like, man, I still feel like I want to know more about Joel. Like, I don't know who you are, like, your point of view. And now that somebody said that to me a few years ago, I've been trying to, like, work on that myself. And even in watching other performers, I'm like, wow, like, that's a good joke, but, like, who are you? Like, you know what I mean? That's what's so cool, I think, about stand-up versus everything else is it's literally just you putting your personality and your point of view about, you know, what you think on the line in front of everybody. Mm-hmm. And with acting or, like, comedy and, like, you know, with improv or whatever, you can do characters and kind of hide behind, you know what I mean, a little bit of you're putting up another mask, sort of. But with stand-up, it's a lot of just, you know, you. It's like even though it's a persona. Like, I feel like me on stage is not me. It's kind of a Joel Boyd stand-up persona.
It's usually you elevated a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, you know, Woody Allen doesn't really talk like that. I don't believe that.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And, like, I think one of the notes, because I try to always, whether it's the audio or just on a phone, try to record my sets so I could watch them later and kind of learn from them. And I remember when I was the first year or so, you know, and I was still learning how to craft jokes and, you know, just remember them on stage. And I remember I sent one of my sets to a friend of mine, and she's like, and she doesn't in comedy, but she's a total impartial party, you know, she's not in the comedy world like you and me, but she's like, you know, like, I think some of the stuff you have is funny, but it feels like just very general stuff. Like you said, there's not a lot of personal stuff. Like one of your first bits was about your parents and, like, how you grew up with religion, and, like, it was very personal to where maybe someone else has a bit like that, but it's more so unique to you.
Yeah, this happened to me. Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, man, I maybe I need to start telling more personal stories or just personal opinions opposed to just general, like, you know, bits.
Yeah.
And I think one of my ones recently that has worked better because it's kind of, like, based off something how I really feel is, like, right now me and my wife, you know, this may change later, but right now we don't want kids. And, you know, at first whenever you say that to certain generations, you're like, whoa. And so, like, I kind of just thought, I was like, yeah, you know, we don't want kids because, you know, kids cause divorce. You know, and,
that's a good bit. I remember that bit.
And, you know, and then I started going into, you know, like, I'm not saying the kid actually causes the divorce, you know, but it's kind of one of those things that leads to arguments that becomes a divorce. And and then I started thinking of silly things with that. And I was like, man, because that was a personal opinion of mine. You know, some people, for whatever reason, you know, they think, you know, we got to do exactly what we're supposed to do. We got to get engaged. We got to get married, move in together, have a kid. You know, like, they just think that's how you're supposed to do things. But me and my wife were like, you know what, like, we don't want kids.
Fuck kids.
They're annoying. And I remember I even was talking to someone I went to go visit my old creative writing teacher from high school during one of her classes, and, you know, she was kind of wondering when me and my wife were going to have kids, and I brought up that we don't right now, like, maybe down the road, but the next 5 years, that's not on our plan. And I was like, because you have kids you have to give, like, all of your free time to.
Oh, yeah. And
the one high school kid, this is from, like, a 17-year-old, was like, that's so selfish. And I was like, yeah, me and my wife are selfish people. And my teacher's like, well, at least you guys know that. Some people don't know that.
Yeah.
And I think that's something else I kind of explore, just me being selfish and, like you said, more personal experience to make it to where it's not just like, I was flying on a plane and the peanut The peanut bag was too small, you know.
Oh, you gotta write that down. Keep that. That's good shit.
Never heard that before.
This is another thing that even I'm struggling with. I think a lot of comics struggle with this, is writing something you think people think is funny instead of writing something that you think is funny. Like, most of the time, you know, the bits that I felt like, you know, I've been afraid to say or whatever, you like, I don't know how people feel about this. Or is this funny? Is this funny? That's good because it's new. It's something that you're afraid to say or you're afraid to try. That's going to be way more successful than the ideas that you're like, oh, I think people will like this. You know what I mean? Because then you're kind of just recycling the same shit that you think people think is funny.
Yeah.
So, the best bits are something you're, you know, that's off the radar, you're afraid to say.
Yeah, I think it was on like a making of documentary of like, I think it was like the Matt Groening, I think it was the showrunner of like The Simpsons, or like one of the head writers, is where he talked about that exact thing. He's like, I write to make myself laugh, what I think is funny, and then, you know, you may have to edit it to maybe make it available to a broader audience, but like there's no way you're gonna write something and only you think it's funny.
Right.
Maybe you'll get a tiny portion of the audience, like it won't kill, but like there's no way you're gonna write something that literally only you think is funny.
Right.
It's very, very rare to write something that unique. Like,
yeah,
to where
I've discovered a new dimension of comedy. Only I will understand.
Yeah. But you do need to write, and I think that even translates to when like I'm working on sketch and stuff. I'll be directing on set and I'll be laughing, and people are like, "Are you laughing at your own stuff?" And I'm like, no, I'm just laughing at like the situation. Like, even though like I came up with it, it's more so like these performers, you know, delivering these lines, and just the situation of whatever ridiculous thing is happening. You know, I just think that's funny. It's not like just like my ego. But I mean, have you ever looked at some of your old stuff, like maybe your hour or your 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and you're just sitting there just laughing? You just that's pretty good, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I have a personal issue with myself that's just I don't look back a lot. I don't know. I don't watch myself or watch any of my old stuff a lot. Which I should, because then you could see like where you came from or how you've progressed. But yeah, man, there's times where I've just like went down this weird YouTube hole of watching your own old stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm just been like, oh man, yeah, I guess that's good. Like I should work on that.
Or you want to revisit an old bit, or you just...
Yeah. Or even like branding is so important now, you know? If you find... I think one of my earliest shows, I did like a survey after the show, and I handed people like sheets of paper and just asked them to describe my style or to tell me what their favorite joke was that they heard that night. And just because I was like, I wonder who people think I am, like just hearing me talk. And looking back on some of my old videos, I've been like, oh wow, I guess that's what I am to people. Like usually like to build off of what you've already, you know, kind of surmounted yourself as a comedian or as a comedic voice. You can kind of see like what people who like your jokes or people, you know, even people who don't like your shit, to just hear you and say, oh, okay, I think your style is this and you should keep doing this. Mm-hmm. You know?
No, like I think that makes sense. I don't know if you're a fan of Pete Holmes at all.
Yeah.
I mainly bring it up because I just... a few weeks ago, he came to Chicago to record his HBO special, and I got to see him at the Vic Theater. And you know, one thing he's kind of like, to his Pete Holmes fans, known for is like he cracks up at his own bits like on stage, like almost in a way where he's just like, I can't believe I said that. But like we love him for it because that's just him.
Oh yeah.
You know, he always is putting the mic away from his mouth. It's just like, oh my god. But like he's not trying to be like, no, like I can't laugh at my stuff. Like,
right.
You know, that's just him. Like you said, you've looked at it and you're like, you know what? I think this is what I am, and I'm not gonna try to be something else.
Yeah.
Because obviously you're getting reactions, so it's not the worst thing in the world.
True, man.
We've mentioned you improv and sketch, and one thing you guys have been doing is MLKs of comedy. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's kind of this weird but like awesome new thing that I feel like is being done in Chicago comedy that's just kind of a little bit different than I feel like what a lot of the scene is doing. So yeah, it pretty much is just started out, we're called the Martin Luther Kings of Comedy. It started off with just me like texting a bunch of my friends just saying, hey man, we should tour colleges next year. Like I heard about some of my best friends touring colleges, and I'm like, man, we should do that. And then it just turned into us like hanging out all the time. Like it just turned into kind of the 7 of us, just young dudes around the scene, and we made this like house party sort of college comedy show, and we did this podcast, and now we're just like got a bunch of projects going off this year, and we're trying to make it all lead up to doing a tour pretty soon, and like make it a film, and you know some other things we're trying to do. But yeah, it's just different. Like it's just like I feel like what should be a competition between all of us young kind of black comics in Chicago, it's turned into us just kind of rooting for each other and being friends, and like it's become this weird like brotherhood sort of thing. So yeah, we got a lot of good stuff popping off this summer. But yeah, it's kind of crazy where it all came from and how it accidentally turned into this thing, and we still don't even know what it is, or you know.
But so, I think that's something, and you know, I can't speak for older generations, you know, because you know we're obviously only in ours,
right.
But you know, I think that's something I would love to see more of in a younger stand-up comedy scene, is trying new things and being more like what we learned in improv, yes, and opposed to, you know, being super judgmental of each other, and like you said, looking at it as a competition. Like it shouldn't be about, you know, I want to be funnier than Joel. It should be, you know, I want to be on the level to where I get reactions like Joel, or like I push myself to be better. It shouldn't be just, you know, like you know, Joel gets to do all the stand-up things, you know.
Right, and that's the way a lot of the scene felt like, I think, for so long, and it still feels like that. But I think this was cool, and what's been so fun about this group is that we each have our own style, and we know nobody else in the squad can kind of get away with doing something that somebody else is good at. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a competition. Like, Joel can't pull off a Mike Robinson bit, or like Mike Robinson can't pull off a Denny Love bit. You know what I mean? Like all the people in the group, it kind of just feels like, you know, everybody has their thing, and we know them for doing that thing, and that's cool. Like, you know what I mean? And that's fine. So yeah, and I feel like for the rest of the comedy scene, it's kind of just been like, you know, I remember definitely this one time specifically where like I first moved here and I started doing more spots at like Jokes and Notes down on the South Side, and one of these dudes came up to me a few shows after that, and I already seen him down there. He came up to me and like said to me like, "Hey man, oh man, it was good to see you at this show. You're super funny. I just felt like, man, I didn't like you when I first met you, because like it was like me, you, and Josh Johnson. We were all doing this like, you know, the black, like, preppy, sort of sounding white kid thing, and I was just like, I don't know, I feel like you were cutting in on my, like, my
shtick.
Yeah, my shtick, bro. That's my style, man. That's my thing. And I'm just like, bro, you ain't me. Like, I'm not you. That's, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even think about that when I first seen him do stand-up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You shouldn't have to categorize yourself into, you know, like you said, the, you know, black, preppy, white sounding, you know, like, you don't have to be that. You just want to be Joe Boyd.
That's
you know?
all I was doing. And it was just like interesting to see that some people think like that still. And I get it. You know what I mean? Like, I think when I did first meet Josh Johnson, who was one of my best friends, and he's off doing, you know, amazing things right now. He just moved to New York. I think he just opened for Kevin Hart, and like just opened for what else did he do? Opened for Dimitri Martin, I think, recently. But yeah, he's been killing it. But yeah, when I first met him in the comedy scene, it was the same thing. It was literally like, wow, this dude, like, we had the same life. Like, both of us had the same day job working at Trader Joe's, and just like skinny little black dudes on the north side of Chicago doing comedy. And I was like, damn, he's still in my life. Like, what else am I going to talk about on stage? Fuck.
Well, that's why you said you got to pull from more personal things that.
Right.
And I think that was one of the things. Actually, one of my film teachers said, or maybe it was at a commencement speech for the film department or something, is, they kind of asked the room, what are some of your favorite directors or writers or so, and I remember it was like 2010, so like, I said Chris Nolan because Inception just came out. And I'm like, yeah, he's one of my favorite directors. And he's like, what makes you different than Chris Nolan? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, your life is not Christopher Nolan's life. Mm-hmm. Shit that happened to you is nothing but what happened to him. So like, you need to take something or some point of view, like you've talked about, and then you can create something with it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, damn.
That's what's so cool, I think, about writing that people don't realize. And that's why I love writing, the writing aspect of just doing comedy, too. Yeah. Is like, so much, that simple rule of, like, write what you know. Like, so much of what people make, and, like, I think Louis is a great example. We were talking about Louis earlier. Louis... That show, I'm pretty sure a lot of those stories are just little things that happened to Louis the last few years, but he just kind of was like, oh man, what if I embellished that? Just made it.
Yeah, what if I just escalated it immensely?
Wrote it into something.
A lot of things covered just talking about stand-up with Joel, and, I feel like we could talk for hours. Just about the various, things when it comes to stand-up, when it comes to the writing, the point of view, how... maybe more the younger generation should embrace one another opposed to competing. Mainly just for the fact that, like I said, I don't want to make this a 5-hour podcast. Joel's got some stuff to do. We'll kind of segue out of our main topic and go to our next segment called I Hate People. Which, basically, I created this because I've worked, and you worked at Trader Joe's, you can probably have stores. I've worked in a lot of customer service type things, and just... I don't know, like, living in the city, you deal with so many people that it just, frustrating situations happen, and sometimes you just gotta vent about some stupid-ass people. True. But mine this week isn't necessarily a customer service story. It is about a commenter on my YouTube page. Entertainment Buffet, I started this thing called Game of Thrones for Dummies, where basically each week, this new season, I just started it, I recap the episode in a really sassy, snarky, rapid-fire Cliff Notes type way. Right. It's mainly for humor. It's not to be informative about the show. Like, I'll spoil stuff that happened in the episode, but I'm not, analyzing it a lot. It's more just like, oh, that bitch is dead now. And just trying to just make it humorous. And a commenter, because I named the show Game of Thrones for Dummies, wrote something to the effect of, it's sad how the show was already a dumbed-down version of the books. I don't know why anyone would watch these. Damn. Because, why does it need to be dumbed down anymore? And basically said, because at the time, I don't have many views. It just started a couple weeks ago. He's like, oh, wait, this only has like 17 views, so never mind. I guess no one is watching it. Like... what the actual fuck? Damn. Like, I didn't even respond. I just deleted it. Like, sometimes I'll try to reply and, maybe start an argument just to stir shit up. But I was just like, what kind of haterade were you sipping this morning? Dude. Like,
trolls are serious, man.
Yeah, like, for him to say, like, he's insulting all these people who, like, I don't know if you watch Game of Thrones. No. But, like, when you watch it at first, there's a lot of fucking characters, a lot of shit happening. Sometimes you need to look up just things explaining it to kind of dumb it down for you, because there's so much shit happening. But him to insult all these show watchers who maybe are confused about what's happening in the books or whatever. Yeah. And then to insult my humorous little 3-minute recaps of the episodes.
People gonna talk. I'm getting used to that shit. Yeah. Like, people just gonna talk about you because you're doing something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I was just like... I wanted to say, be like, this is just for fun, right? Like, this is not supposed to be, like, an actual, like, educational for dummies book, like, on Game of Thrones. Right, It's just supposed to be for, make good, a quick laugh. Anyway, that's my I Hate People of the Week.
I just hate dumb motherfuckers. Like, just because people are so fucking dumb. Like, most people, when you look at, like, the current population of human beings, like, I think that's just what I kind of took from your comment too, and I just noticed this about just people in general lately. It's like this place we're going to in society where it's just kind of okay to be stupid, and we just keep letting people be stupid because then, you know, you can trick them into buying whatever is being advertised that week or whatever the fuck the 1% is throwing at us that week. But it's like really, I don't know. I hate people is just like ignorance, man. Because like, I don't know. I just hate people who are not fucking woke. Like if you don't understand shit that is going on, or at least trying to understand. Like I know people who like literally, I don't watch the news all day every day because it'll make me upset and want to murder people. But like, I don't know, people who just are asleep and don't care that they're asleep and just are making the world not even worse, but just like not helping. What the fuck? Like the simple fact that somebody is on your YouTube page shitting on the show you took time to make. Like you ain't making a show though.
Yeah.
You didn't try to make anything. You're just spectating. You're just sitting on anybody in the crowd ain't shit. Even if you watching the person who's on the bench, they made a team. Just the fuck up. Like you ain't doing nothing. But like people who just like are haters and just fucking like I don't understand, like, I don't know. I don't understand regular people, first of all. I've been doing comedy too long, so I don't understand what regular people are like. But, like, people who just don't try anymore and just have that sort of, like, I'm the energy that's, you know, in the world, I'm not going to make it better. I'm just going to kind of shit on people and type whatever I want on my Facebook, and that's all I want. Y'all sleep. I hate sleep people. Wake up.
That's why after all this segment, I always get so frustrated, and I kind of need to do like a. Well, Joel, it's always a pleasure hanging out. It's always a pleasure working together, and we'll have to have you on the podcast again. I really look forward to seeing where MLKs of Comedy, you guys starting this tour and everything, and feel free, please plug any of your shows coming up, and this should be. I think it's going to be around the first week of June or so. This is posting. So what do you have coming up?
Coming up this summer, hot stuff, people. Keep up with the MLKs of Comedy, our Instagram. We have a lot of good updates. That's at MLKS of Comedy, MLKs of Comedy on Instagram. And we got a couple new shows we're popping off this summer. So yeah, keep up with us on there. And then also I'm doing a play if you guys are into some theater. I'm doing a play called Wastewater at Steep Theater in Chicago. Opens in July. It's going to be dope as hell. It's like my first dramatic role. I'll be playing like this British orphan type dude. So yeah, if you're looking to have some tears and crumpets, going out to that. But I'm always doing stuff. Check me out on joelboydtv.com. And my Snapchat is always bumping. That's at joelboydtv. All right, that's it.
Awesome. So check them out there. If you look on their Entertainment Buffet page from our Entertainment Buffet live show, you can see Joel kill it for 20 minutes as our headliner from our first Entertainment Buffet live show. I hope sometime this summer I'm trying to talk with the people at the Comedy Bar about doing another one of those. Thanks again, Joel.
Thank you, Brandon.
Check out all his stuff, guys, and like I said, we'll have to have you on again.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.